Hey everybody, check this out. This is the middle of April, and this is definitely not normal for these parts. Normally I'd be out fishing or picking mushrooms or getting up to some sort of outdoor activity at least, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna be getting out there at all today. But there's one thing that's always fun to do on a day like this, and that's making sausage. A little while back, I made some homemade Spam, and if you like Spam, you should really check out that video on the channel. Well, that recipe came out so good that I just have to make a snack stick version. So I'll be using a nearly identical recipe as the Spam, but I'm gonna add in some jalapeños and cheese because, of course, I'm gonna throw in some jalapeños and cheese. For the meat, I'll be using 5 pounds or 2 1/4 kilos of pork shoulder and 1 pound or 456 grams of already prepared ham. I have 45 grams, which is about 2½ tablespoons of plain salt, 30 grams or 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon, which is about 5.5 grams of pink cure number 1. In the Spam recipe, I used cornstarch as the binder, but for these snack sticks, I want to get a little protein boost, so I'm using powdered milk. So here is 60 grams, which is around 3/4 cup of non-fat powdered milk. I'm also going to need some liquid in there, and I just happen to have a nice pale ale on hand, so I'll use 1 cup or 250 milliliters of this beer. Then I'll just add in dried jalapeños until it looks like enough for me. But you can go as light or as hard as you want with these, depending on your taste for heat. A lot of people ask why I use dried jalapeños and not fresh jalapeños, and there are a couple of reasons for that. And first is moisture management. I don't really want little wet spots peppered around in my sausage where the fresh jalapeno chunks are, and those fresh jalapeños can also get a little bit mushy. The other reason that I use these dried peppers is that they have a nice concentrated flavor and heat that I can taste when I bite into a piece, and I like that. And finally, right before I stuff the sausage, I'll add in some high temperature cheese. Now this cheese is made to withstand the temperature of smoking, so it holds its form and cheesiness in the finished sausage. A pound of this is enough for 10 pounds of sausage, so I'll be using 2/3 of a pound, about 300 grams in this recipe. So now let's get to grinding this meat and mixing up this sausage. So for this recipe, I'm going to run the pork through the small plate and the ham through the larger plate. That ham's pretty lean, and those bigger chunks will give me some nice meaty bits to chew on. Shake up those spices, and I'll hold off on the cure and dissolve that in the beer when I mix up the sausage. Now it's time to add the spices and mix like crazy. I want to get a lot of good protein extraction out of that pork, so we're going to mix the heck out of it. And it's very, very cold, so cotton liners really help out. Oh, I should note that the spices that I measured out are just to season the pork. Since that ham is already seasoned and cured, I don't need to worry about adding any more salt or cure or anything to that. So just concentrate on the pork when it comes to curing and seasoning. cure. Let's get that dissolved in there. Oh my, that is good. All right, now go to work and don't stop mixing until this gets really nice and sticky.
One eternity later.
That feels pretty good. I'll just stir in those jalapeños. Start with about a half a cup and I'll see how that looks. I can tell you right now, it's gonna be more. That looks pretty good, but again, go as heavy or as light as you want with those jalapeños. Now I'm not gonna add in the cheese until right before I stuff these sausages because I don't want it getting soggy on me. So now this goes out to the refrigerator overnight to let that cure work its magic, and we'll be back here in the morning to stuff this sausage. If you've seen my videos, you've probably noticed that I didn't do what I always do, which is to fry up a little test patty and taste this before I stuff it into the casings. And that's because I used this recipe just a few weeks ago when I made that Spam, so I know what it tastes like. But whenever you're making a sausage for the first time, fry up a little test patty and give that a taste so you can adjust any seasoning you want before you stuff it into the casings and it's too late. Hey everybody! Bright and early on another Sausage Sunday morning. As usual, I like to get a real early start on these because this is probably going to take around 8 hours to smoke. So now I'm going to mix in my high temp cheese and then we'll load up the stuffer and crank one out. So as usual, I've got my collagen casings. These are 21mm casings and they're designed to be used with a 12mm sausage stuffing horn. This one is 3/8 of an inch, which is only 9.5mm, but it gets the job done just fine. Got my stuffer, corn popped, and we are ready to lock and load and stuff this sausage. When you're using these particular collagen casings, you're going to find out that there is a concave or indented end and a convex or pointed end here. And if you put these on the horn, starting with the pointy end, the sausage will stuff a little bit easier for you. All right, we are out in the sausage closet now, giving these some time for the outside of these casings to dry a little and the sausage to really glue itself to the inside of those casings. So, we've got a little fan going under there, and we'll leave these here for about an hour. After an hour in the sausage closet, we're going to move these out to the smoker. We're going to continue to dry these at 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour, and that's a dry heat, no water down in the water pan. And I need to leave my smoker door cracked just a little bit to hit that low temperature. Now I've started the smoke, and I'm using apple wood today, which is kind of a milder smoke than hickory, so I'm going to give it a little bit of extra smoke time to soak up some of that flavor. So, my smoking schedule today: 2 hours at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, followed by 2 hours at 150 degrees with smoke, and then I will cut the smoke and continue to cook these at 150 degrees until they are as dry and done as I like them to be. Then I'll raise it up to 180 degrees for a quick finish. Now, these have been taking on smoke for 4 hours. Got a beautiful color going on. I just put my temperature probe in there, and now I'm going to kill the smoke, and I'll continue kind of drying these at 150 degrees until they get to the kind of dryness and doneness that I'm looking for, and then we'll bump that temperature up for the big finish. Oh yeah, now we're looking good. Getting to be just about how I like them, nice and crinkly dinkly all the way down. And that took another couple of hours at 150. But depending on how much moisture you start with in your sausage, how thick they are, and just how you like them, that could be different for you. So you really just keep an eye on them. I will say though, if you don't dry them enough, you're going to end up with a floppy sausage, and I'll just let that speak for itself. So now I'm going to bump the temperature up to 180 for that quick finish. It's not going to take very long because they're already doing about 150 internal, and I'm looking for between 155 and 160 when I pull these. Pulling the sausage at the right temperature is crucial, and I like to pull mine between 155 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Some people go as low as 152, but I like mine to be just a little bit more done than that. But it's when you get into the higher temperatures, above 160, where you can ruin your batch of sausage. If you go too high, then the fat can run out of the meat, and it'll get caught between the meat and the casing, and you'll get sort of a dry and grainy sausage that's all coated in grease. And that is a sausage that you're going to eat all alone. Getting them cooled down and stopping that cooking, also very important, and this ice bath is the best way to do it. Even though it's freezing outside, if I just open the smoker and let them hang there, they could dry out a little more than I like. So getting them cooled in the ice bath, or even spraying them down with cold water from your garden hose, is a better way to go. So I'm going to leave them in this ice bath for maybe 5 or 10 minutes to make sure that core temperature starts to drop, and then I'll go and hang them back in the sausage closet with that fan on them to get them completely dry before I put them in the refrigerator overnight. Now it's finally time to see how we did. Check out that bite. Oh yeah. Okay, let's do the tasting notes first. It's very simple and straightforward flavor. It's ham and cheese with a little jalapeno hit, and I just love the taste of apple wood on pork. There are no surprises here, but it's absolutely delicious, and there's a lot of room to play around with this recipe. You could throw in a bunch of brown sugar or some maple syrup and get the flavor of one of those really heavily glazed hams. Or maybe some cloves, pineapple, and little bits of maraschino cherries for an old school baked ham flavor. Definitely lots of room to have some fun with this one. Now let's talk about the texture. This is the leanest snack stick I've ever made. It's probably coming in just under 20% fat content, and 30% is what I usually shoot for. So what does that do to the texture? Well, it makes this a very dense stick. It's real meaty and has sort of a hard chew to it. You're gonna work on this one a little longer than a fattier stick, and in that regard, it's very satisfying. You could cut in some more fat and make this a more tender stick, but I think this is great just like this. Let's check out the grain. Alright, there you go. You can see that tight grain there. On my other sticks, you'll see a lot more bits of fat cut in here and there, and those kind of break up the texture and give it a more tender bite. But this one is very lean in comparison. And those cheese bits look and taste great, as do the jalapenos. So other than just snacking on this as is, I got a strong feeling these are going to be great sliced up and fried or in an omelet, and definitely, without a doubt, this is going to be fantastic on a pizza. So hey, if you're sitting on some leftover Easter ham or just want to try out a new sausage, give this one a try, and I know you're going to love it. Thanks for watching.